Hi, welcome to Gen X Reviews. My name is Rudy A. I give reviews from a Gen X point of view. And speaking of being a Gen Xer, I was in high school when the original Crow came out in 1994. I was a senior in high school, and believe me when I say this, this movie had a huge cultural stamp on my generation and me personally. I remember seeing the movie in the theater. I remember the horror, tragic story with Brandon Lee and how he died while the film was being made. And the film, again, just resonated with me as a young adult falling in love for the first time and just seeing this tragic story. The movie was a comic book movie, as you all know, a rated R comic book movie. And again, the soundtrack, the score, the Brandon Lee's performance, his outfit, everything just spoke to me. And I've loved this movie to this day. As a matter of fact, I saw the original last night just to kind of refresh myself with the story and, you know, this personal film of mine. So I love the original Crow. I've seen the sequels once or twice. I remember being disappointed with them, but from what I remember, the original is still the best one. Funny story, back in 1994, everybody tried to get Brandon Lee's hair and grow it out. I tried to do it, but I ended up looking like my mom. So I had to cut it. So it's been 30 years since the original came out, and that's the appropriate window for a remake to occur. So when I heard about it, I wasn't angry or possessive about it, like, this is my movie, what are you doing? It's about that time for a new generation to experience a story. Bill Skarsgård, I love him as an actor, and I think that was a perfect casting. When the original image of his version of the Crow came out, yes, it didn't connect with me since the original look is so iconic. Even to this day, there's people cosplaying, trying to look like that. So the look is very now. So that was really not for me. But again, I know this movie is not made for me. It's made for this new generation. So I went and saw it, and here are my thoughts. And you know what? I'm just going to copy everybody else on YouTube and just go with what I liked first with the film. So here's the positives. What I appreciate about this film is that it's really its own unique story. Most remakes are just more of a copy and paste with some, you know, hallmarks of the original. This is an entirely unique origin story of the Crow. Again, don't expect it to have the same beats as the original. It's totally different, and I can appreciate that. I have heard some mixed reviews of people saying it takes too long for him to be the Crow. I can see that, but I do appreciate that they were really trying to hone in on the relationship, and I'll get to that later on in the video. Anytime Bill Skarsgård is on screen, I appreciated it because, again, we get more of the Crow than we did in the original movies. We actually see him evolve. When he first comes back, he's very clumsy, he's very reckless with what he's doing. Yes, he can still heal, but he hasn't fully become the Crow that we know and what we are waiting for, like many critics have complained about. You don't get that till later on in the movie, but when it happens, I was patient enough for it to allow that to happen, and I had no problem with that whatsoever, because technically he still was, but he just didn't have the paint and makeup and trench coat. The other positive that I love is there is a tremendous amount of gore, especially in the third act. You've probably seen it in the trailers. It's a very symbolic, meaningful shot of him escalating upstairs. It's like Dante's Inferno, quote unquote. So I appreciated the violence and the gratuity in this film that the others didn't provide. So again, big positive because I'm a gore whore. And I also appreciate the added level of stakes in the film. Like all the other films, you know, a horrible event occurs, he's allowed to come back and avenge and kill the people that wronged him and his love. So I appreciate that's still present in the film, but there's also a narrative in the story where he's trying to save her in the afterlife, which is an added stake. So not only is he avenging her, he's also still trying to save her in the afterlife, which again, I like that. And my last of the goods that I liked about this movie, it had a great soundtrack. I love alternative music. To hear Joy Division and the Traders, it's a decent soundtrack. Now let's go to the bad. There's no mix. Let's just go to the bad. The biggest problem in this movie is a relationship. It's complete garbage. And it's not the type of love that one would believe as an audience goer or listening to a story that is that type of love that would bring somebody back from the dead to right a wrong. They just barely met each other. There's drug use involved, and the core of the relationship is honestly trauma bonding. That's what it is. And the chemistry between Skarsgård and Fucka Twigs, what the hell's her name? FKA Twigs? I don't believe it. It's more or less like a reckless fling. I'm not gonna say where they met because that would be technically a spoiler, but from the origin, where they met and where they go and what they do, I just see it as like that puppy love. You just met somebody, you don't really know them. It's been a wonderful 2 weeks, but not the timeless love that would have me believe that it's worth coming back from the dead for. It's not that at all. And maybe I'm just old and I can't relate to it, but again, when you look at the original, and I hate comparing the two, but the original had a believable story. This couple was in love, they were engaged, they were planning to get married, and they were just victims of a horrible act. That's more believable than this shit. And some would say, well, if the core of the relationship is not believable, then the whole movie sucks. No, for me, no. The movie excelled when it was just Skarsgård as the Crow by himself. When it's the relationship, which is a good 30, 40 minutes of the beginning of the movie, it can drag. So again, it took a while to get to the point where it got interesting. But again, once we passed that, the film was okay. But the relationship, it's forced on you as an audience member, and it's not believable whatsoever. But I also understand that this movie's not made for me. The Crow, the original, is iconic. Nowadays, I guess younger audiences would appeal to a Crow that looks like Machine Gun Kelly. It's not for me. But again, I understand that a younger generation would maybe appreciate that type of relationship and that look. But again, it's not for me. But as much as the relationship and the look wasn't for me, it didn't take away from the overall experience of the film. There's more pros in this film than cons. So having said all that, I still found the film enjoyable. It's okay. It's not as bad as other critics are making it out to be. So I'm giving The Crow a thumbs up. It was okay. It was enjoyable. It's not horrible. It was okay. And in closing, I'll be honest, I was ready to hate this movie. Again, a lot of movies that we grow up with, we all know what those movies are to us. We have a personal bond with them. They remind us of our youth. They remind us of happy times of our lives. So I was very protective of this film, and I was ready to hate it, just like everybody else. So I was pleasantly surprised with my reaction halfway through the film. I told my wife, hey, this is not so bad. I'm actually enjoying myself. Yes, it has its problems, but I can look past that. But I actually enjoyed it. So again, for me, saying that I enjoyed it, I'm surprising myself as well, because again, I was ready to just hate the shit out of this movie, and that's not what happened. So if you like my review, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Also leave some comments down below. I would love to hear what you thought of The Crow, and what are your thoughts on the original? I did an old review of that movie, so if you want to check it out, the link would be up there. Check it out. I actually go full makeup on that. Thank you for watching Gen X Reviews. I will see you next time. Take care. Peace.